Hello and welcome to another Caseware webinar. My name's James. I'll be doing the hosting today. This webinar is about Caseware Validate, a new product to Caseware, and we'll be covering the faster way to review financial statements and save time on your audits. Today's webinar will be recorded and there'll be a recording available on our website afterwards. Normally it takes about 2 or so days to get it up there. Equally, you will all be sent a link to the recording after today's webinar if you've registered for the webinar. If you have a question, you can see on screen that you can run a question past us using the Q&A feature shown at the bottom of the screen. We will get around to doing the questions and answers section, but that'll be towards the end of today's webinar. So don't worry, we will get around to your questions and anything we can't answer. And at the end, we'll always follow up with an email to yourself. Fantastic. Jumping onto the next screen there. Today's presenter is our very own Jack Holloway. He's our commercial director and solutions consulting kind of expert at Caseware. I'll hand over to Jack now to run through the intros, and same again. If you have any questions, feel free to put them on the Q&A feature at the bottom.
Thanks, James. And hi, everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm sure a few of you have seen me a few times now. Jack Holloway, Commercial Director at Caseware and Solutions Consulting Team. So my bit of background on me, I was still am, a chartered accountant and was an audit manager at one of the larger firms in the UK. So seen some of the stuff that you guys, the challenges that you guys see from your side as well, and then moved into Caseware, but worked in various places in Caseware, sort of customer-facing roles within the training team and everything like that. So again, seen a broad range of some of the I know the people that are attending today obviously speak to me quite a lot. So that a bit of background on me. Today, we're going to talk about Validate, and it's obviously we're really excited to bring you Caseware Validate. It's something I'll give you a little bit of history in a moment and everything there, but it's a really exciting product for us. It's something that is going to genuinely save people a lot of time and a lot of the pain points that we have around sort of staff retention and things like that as well. It's something that we've seen a much more popular sort of use case within firms to cover, some of the, as I say, the pain points that they're going through. But um, I'll just run through the agenda that we're going to run through today. So first of all, we're going to do a little bit of an introduction to Caseware Validate, just a few slides just to show you guys how it works and what it's doing behind the scenes. Then I'll actually jump into the sort of the demonstration itself, and I'll show you guys how Validate's working. And then finally, we'll end with the Q&A and the webinar conclusion. Excuse me. And what I'll also do within here as well, obviously, if you want to get in touch and have a more in detailed demo afterwards, we can certainly provide that. And James will raise those sorts of questions. There'll be a poll at the end so that you can answer that you're after a trial or a demo and everything like that. So we'll go from there. Okay. So, as James said, drop in the questions. I'll pause at various points just to see if there's any questions that have come in. But any as you want to go through, that's fine. So from here, just a little background on Caseware for those that haven't come across Caseware before. Obviously, I won't completely kill you with PowerPoint today, but we've been around for a while. We started out in Toronto 35 years ago, but we've now grown into a global organization that has a lot of footprint around the world within different sort of regions. And yeah, just to give you a little background there. Validate obviously started out in Australia. So there's a firm called Extractly AI that Case was purchased, and they originally have Validate within their product suite. Obviously, we're really excited to bring it within Caseware and market it more to you guys because there's a lot of problems in today's sort of world around technology and efficiency, and audit firms are really requiring to be more efficient so that they don't get left behind in a lot of these things. And what this is really attacking is the financial statements review and things that fall within that financial statements review in the audit process. Okay. So, just a few things that have come up around financial statements. Obviously, the annual reports have grown a lot in the last few years. There's been a lot of addition to things that environmental statements that need to be in the director's report, and different pieces of information within the strategic report as well that's now required by certain regulations around the world. So it's meant that those annual reports have grown a lot in that time. Okay. And that then comes on as well to the number of checks that are needed within one set of financial statements. I remember back to when I was sitting there with a calculator and a pen at 10 o'clock at night trying to make sure that everything cast and cross-checked and everything like that. And that's what Validate is doing. It's taking away the need for human interaction with that. And it's just coming up with the issues very quickly, and it will present that in a way that we'll come on to in a moment. But it's doing those checks with those as an average number of checks, 450 checks within each set of statements that causes pain points for auditors. Okay. And then finally, we've spoken to a lot of our corporate clients on this as well, where the typical number of draft versions that go back and forth between auditors and sort of financial directors within firms tends to be around 10 versions within the process of edits, small edits, large edits, and everything like that within the accounts. Now, when we spoke with our corporate customers, they spoke about the version compare tool within Validate and how powerful that actually is, and how they used that to keep track of what was changing within the accounts. It's not always clear. Sometimes the communication between the two parties isn't always clear where things have changed. So this is actually making it much easier for our corporate clients as well to look into those different versions and see what's changed between each set. And just we had this slide in here just to talk about a few more of the challenges and the solutions that hopefully this can bring. So manual effort. I mean, this is the 10 o'clock at night, the story I was just telling. You're going to get human error in this. You've got relatively junior members of staff looking at this stuff. Um, they will be under pressure, so you can end up with human error in that situation, and that obviously raises the risk of errors. Um, Inefficient reviews, obviously, this is talking about the way that um, you can speed up a lot of things with AI. Obviously, there's been a big rise of AI in the last few years, and this makes it much faster in the way because it's AI powered and it adds it up instantly. Or you guys will see that in a moment how that's working. All right, and just to note, obviously, the Excel limitations. Validate is based purely in the cloud, so there's no Excel limitations or anything like that. If it's PDF or anything like that, it will go into the cloud and it will easily read those pieces of information in there. The only other thing I'm going to mention here again is the this part here accelerates financial reporting cycle by cutting down review time. Okay, that's obviously something we've had a lot of feedback on. So within one of our customers that's been using this across 4,000 engagements, they estimated it saved them around 30,000 hours over the year. So obviously that's a lot of billable time that can obviously increase recoveries and everything like that that audit firms are quite concerned about. So how does Validate work then? First of all, well, and I'm going to run through all this, but just to give you a brief overview, we upload the financial statements. So those financial statements will go into the cloud. And as soon as we do that, the AI will start running those checks on them automatically. Okay, so it will start running casting checks, prior year checks if we give it a prior year comparative set, and internal consistency. So it's checking that the note references are correct and that the notes add up and everything like that. Okay, so it does that automatically straight away as soon as you put it in there. Then it will give you this table that you can see on the laptop screen to the left, where it's got the red, yellow, and green section. Okay, and it will give you greens for everything that adds up, reds for things that are a problem, and yellow for things where it can't quite determine. Now, what we've worked really hard to do, and the previous team worked really hard to do, was that we want to make sure there are absolutely no false positives in this. Okay, so anything that there's a slight problem with, it will make yellow. And that's designed to make sure that there's complete confidence in anything that's green. So you don't have to visit anything that's green at all in here. Okay, so it's a really, really good check, that amber option, and I'll show you how that works in a moment. You can then compare versions and carry forward changes. So anything that you do tell Validate that is correct on one set of accounts, it won't ask you again in future versions. So if I correct an issue in version one, when it comes to version two, it won't be there anymore. Okay, so it will automatically green that out if it spots the same thing. And then finally, you guys will want to put this in audit files, send it to your financial directors. FDs might want to look at certain copies where the errors are and changes. Okay, so you can export those reports to make sure that and then include that on your audit file as necessary, or however you want to use that report going forward. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this on the screen, just talk about this is exactly what it's doing with those internal consistency checks, as I mentioned. It does do multi-entity and multi-column. So if you've got you know group structures and stuff like that, it will do that in there as well. And spell check is another big thing that it does. Okay, so um, I'll come on to this a little bit later on, but I always like to use a certain example on this. But spell check is obviously a big thing that isn't always there in similar tools, and this is obviously making sure that those annual reports and everything like that, everything's spelled correctly and things there. So, James, do you want to run the first poll
Yeah.
just while this is up on the screen? Um, and this is sort of what aspects of the financial statement review process do you find time consuming? And then is there any automation tools you guys are using at the moment to sort of use this to achieve similar things?
Perfect. That,
Um,
that should be on screen now for everyone.
Brilliant. So we'll just leave that up there for 30 seconds or so just to see how that goes in.
I may just leave it running for a bit longer while you continue the conversation as well, just to make sure that everyone
Okay.
can
Yeah, no
answer in
problem.
time.
Great. We'll just give people a few seconds, like I said there.
No problem. We have had a question in saying, are there any notes for this, downloadable slides, that kind of thing? There will be a recording of this webinar afterwards. You won't have the ability to download the slides from today's webinar, unfortunately, but yeah, you'll be able to get your hands on this recording.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, James. Okay, so we can leave that running I'm just looking at the answers briefly. So uh, I think mainly we've got majority of people saying no, they don't use anything like this at the moment, and the rest of the answers are long form, so we'll focus on them later. But the majority is saying no there, so I'll just minimize that on my screen,
Yeah,
um, and then from there I'll go into the actual demo itself. Okay, so if I come into here. This is validate. So within the engagements, obviously this engagement's been created. Okay, very simple and easy to do. And uploading documents is very simple, just with that upload button here. Okay, so here you've got within the advanced conditions that you can select. So if there are half-year reviews, you can select that button there to be able to do that. And multi-entity as well, if you've got group structures that I spoke about a moment ago. Now, language-wise, there are different languages that we can include here. At the minute, it's looking at Latin-based characters, so it is including everything within those sort of countries. There will obviously this list is designed to grow, that will grow in the future. As I said, with Latin-based characters, anything can in theory be added there as we move forward. So I'll hit next for now. And this is then asking for a drag and drop. Now, just so you guys can see what I'm doing. Um, on my other screen, if I drag this over, I'm just going to upload the prior year comparatives and version one of this year's set of accounts. Okay. And drag those in to here. And what you can see is straight away, this will start loading up those files and it will start running those checks on there as well. Okay. So when I hit process documents, that's then doing those calculations that I spoke about earlier. So it's going through all of the different casting and consistency checks. It'll be doing anything to do within the notes and everything like that. And it's just, like I say, running all those checks. And normally we'd expect the first time this goes up, that to last about 40 seconds or so, just because it's doing obviously quite a number of things in the background, as we'll go into in a moment. But this is where the power of the AI really takes over, and rather than a human sitting there doing this manually, that calculations section is running all by itself and running through everything there. And those comparatives are obviously essential, as I spoke about before, so that it can do the prior year checks. It will still run the other parts without that, but obviously you want this to be prior year comparative tested as well. So, and there you go. That's then run that straight away and process those. As you can see, this has now gone green. Now, just to point out on here, I haven't actually given it any of this information, and it doesn't pick this up from document name. It will automatically work out whatever you put up there. It will work out what the period end is. So it looks at the section within the accounts, and it's going to say, balance sheet as at X date, and that's how it knows when the period end is. And also, it's automatically worked out this is version 1, okay? Not just because of this, but because this is the first set of December 2025 accounts I've thrown at this engagement. If I then put another set of December 2025 accounts, as you'll see later on, it will automatically make that version 2. All right, so you don't have to worry about any of that either. This will all automatically run for you. Okay. It's also given us the name up here. I haven't given it that. It's read that from the financial statements, and it's given us that part up there. Okay. So if I now open up this this year's set of accounts that we want it to run all of those checks on, as that loads up, it will be bringing up the summary screen that we spoke about earlier on. Okay, so within here, it's got the summary screen where it's got yellow, red, green. Okay, and it's given us all of these different sections on green being everything's correct. Okay, red it's found some problems for us to look at, and yellow being the indeterminates. And like I said, we'll come into the indeterminates later on. Now, what I'm going to do, the first thing I'm going to come into is I'm going to show you all those indeterminates if I choose this profit and loss sheet here. Okay. And as I come down, you can see this is all color coded up. And okay, gives you that nice section there where you can see all of the different casting checks. There's obviously issues going on with these numbers where it doesn't relate to certain things. But the casting checks, it's looking at with the arrow, okay, if you can see the different symbols, and then the circles being on prior year consistency, and they're all green down this right-hand side. So if I jump into this indeterminate here, 1209, okay, and this is saying why is this indeterminate? Okay, so if I click on the button down here, this will now give us in this note over here, it's got a positive number, 1209, and over here it's got a minus 1209. Okay. Now we can obviously see that's correct, but again, the software is making sure that that's correct. It wants to absolutely give you confidence that anything green is green. So it's giving you the choice, and it's saying over here, okay, this is the source figure, this is the comparative figure, the signs differ, therefore is this correct? And if you're happy with that, you can approve that, okay, and that's now gone green over here, all right? And in future checks and run-throughs that this does, that will then remain green within that section. Okay, so it's a really, really useful tool there on the way that that comes through. Again, if I find something that's 544, okay, that's now looking at the differences here with comparatives. If I go for internal consistency again and click on changes in equity, that part there is saying this is agreeing here. This is because this 1209 didn't agree. So is this 544 also the same? Because for the same reasons it found a problem because that 1209 didn't match. Yes, we're happy that that matches, so we can confirm and again change that to green. Okay. So a really useful part there, as you can see, and how that's working. If I jump up to casting checks, okay, again, it's working out that is that 544 actually agreeing or is it close? If I come to something red in this one, if I just click on this cell over here, excuse me, click out of that. If I click on this cell over here, this is saying everything's added up to minus 1510, but over here we've got 1505. Okay, so just with this casting, this is saying this isn't adding up right, and again, this is showing you that error. Okay, so really, really useful tool to give you that. And at any time, as we spoke about before, that summary of findings will give you everything in the accounts that you can see where the problems are. Now, let's say that you want to be able to actually sort of just look at the errors on here. You can do that by filtering and only showing the indeterminates or errors. So if we get rid of the greens, okay, and apply, gets rid of all the noise on the accounts, but you can now see where the problems are in different sections. So if I come down here and we go click on this one here, this is looking at, there's no match internally. Note 8 is not showing this 1444, this being note 8 over here. Okay, and that's where it's got the problems. Obviously, we've created these accounts for demo purposes with errors in them. Hopefully, you wouldn't see this many in the real world, but that's how it's working here. And again, it's giving those options. And again, this one is linked because it's not seeing this 1449. Okay, this is now a question mark, even though it matches. Okay, because that one's incorrect. This one is showing a question mark because it doesn't actually, it wants to make sure that you're aware that this could now be a problem, same as the 5404 above. Okay. So I'll turn those filters back on so we can continue to explore. But you can obviously export those just errors files for everything that you want to do uh, and go through there. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you guys is referencing. So if I reference something here, okay, you can type if there's another lead sheet, for example, this is going to, and you wanted to reference this to A2, okay, you can do that and it will give you that reference here. And that option comes up within the accounts as you come through. All right, so you can add as many references as you'd like to. And the other thing as well is comments. So if I go add comment, and then we click on this part down here, and we'd say this is incorrect. Okay, that comment now appears within here. And you can obviously mention people. So if you've got the whole team working on this set of accounts, you could mention somebody else, all right, and the colleagues appearing there. And then they can reply back and forth on the comment section. And when you export this to PDF, those comments are all there as well, and you can choose to include them or not, depending on what report you're looking to create afterwards, okay? If anything's resolved as well, you've then got that tick button, and that will resolve them as necessary, as you've seen in other softwares, I'm sure. So again, a really useful feature for people that are collaborating to go through and go back and forth with all this different options here. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'll jump out and show you that version 2 feature, and so you can see the version compare and how that's working. So if I come back now to the main engagement, and again, I'm going to upload documents, and I'm going to choose, now I'm just going to bring in this version 2 set of accounts and drop that in there. Now, again, that's going to do its checks. It's going to run, obviously, the same checks that it did on the previous ones before. So this is only warning that there's only one set of accounts, so there's no prior period with this one, but there will be in a moment once it's processed, okay, because it will recognize that it's the same set. So within here, that version 2 will then go up. It's running those same checks I spoke about earlier on. It's running all the comparative checks again, and it will give us that stuff. So I'll mention while this is going, the spell check feature. So in theory, if you could have Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone come in here, and you could have version 2 of that book and version 1 of that book. And because of all of the text that's within there and the way that this is built, this would then go through and choose whether it would run those spell checks and it would give you the comparatives between the two. Okay, so it uses any block of text to run through and say this paragraph matches, this paragraph doesn't match, and what's changed between those two there. Okay. Now, as you saw there, it popped up and warned me that this is going to be version 2. So as I've hit save, it's automatically worked out. This is the December 25 report, and this is version 2 of that report, and therefore it's automatically done that for me in here. If I then come into this again, as I spoke to you about earlier on, it will now give me another table of summary findings. And within our demo data, we're saying this has been through a review. A lot of things have been corrected, so there should be a lot more greens within this set of accounts. And that's then coming up here and saying there's a lot more greens, and you haven't got to look at as many problems. Still a few indeterminates, but this is hopefully realistic in terms of how that would come through. So once we're in this summary of findings and we're happy, we can then go to that version compare tool up here. Okay. Now with version compare, as I said, it's going to look at all the text, all the tables, and it's going to look at anything that's changed between the version 1 and version 2 sets of accounts for this year, and it will give you this nice table on the right hand side that you can see and work through. And it's a really useful tool. The feedback we've got is quite amazing, really, on how much people enjoyed this. So if I click on the first item, okay, we can see that 1510 that we found earlier, the error that we found. It's been changed in this version, and if we're happy with that, we can approve over here, okay, and that will now change this button over here to a tick, so that if any future versions have the same difference and we compare it to version 2, it will then say we don't need, sorry, and we compare it to version 1 again, it would say this has already been approved on a previous version and we wouldn't need to run through any of that, okay. Same again for next one down, okay. This is something that's been updated, is now correct, so we're happy, we can approve, and that's all there, okay. I can approve from over here as well if you want to just look at this list on the right hand side. That 275's changed to 255. If we're happy, we can approve. All right. And then into the spell check that I spoke about earlier on. And this is where it's looking at uh, the comparing. Sorry, it's comparing from one to the other. And you see these blue outlines that it's telling you what's changed. Okay, so it's making it really easy for the user to say something's happened with this cell. You need to go look at this section. If we're happy with that, we can approve. Okay, and so on, so forth, as you can see the differences down here. Now, one thing I just wanted to mention within here, we've got this section is finding an entire part that's been added. Okay, so it's coming up with version 1, content's been added, and it's then giving us that section there. Okay, so it's really pointing out the entire section has changed within the paragraph. And this one down here is the reverse, where something's been deleted. So we've got right at the bottom, this word's been completely taken out. Are you happy with this, yes or no? All right, so it's looking at that again, and we can approve that where we're comfortable. Okay. But it's as I said, a really useful tool that we've got a lot of good feedback on, and speaking about these different sections. So we had a question previously on referencing parts within the director's report here. So if I was looking at this part here, you can see that each, as I hover over different parts of the cells, the software is picking up that this is a text field. But as soon as I go to this number, it recognizes it's a number here. Okay. So I can actually add a reference very easily by clicking on that cell there. Okay. And we can say, right, we want to check that this agrees to the financial statements profit for the company for the year. Okay. So we can say internal consistency and add one ourselves. Now what that does then is on the right hand side, it's going to come up and say, where do I want to check this against? So as I come down here and we'll go down to the profit and loss, we can then compare this to this cell here, which would be the profit and loss. And we can say straight away, this is a problem. There's a negative difference, and we can see that there is an arithmetic error within the casting. Okay, so once we've done that, and we click off that cell, that then will go red here, and it's telling us this is not agreeing to the prior year. Okay, so it's a really useful feature as well that you can actually add manual checks for stuff within the director's report. Again, if I do that within the 544, okay, and we go for the comparative figure there, as I come down, 544, this one agrees. Okay, so when I close that, we can see this is an error and this is not an error. This is correct. All right. But this now will remain there, so that check's built in. So you can clearly see that there's another cross-casting check, even from the director's report, that you can add really simply. That as people are going through, they can make those sort of different areas there as they need to. So I'll just show the export options as we come up here. Okay, you can export to PDF, you can export audit logs or tables within there to CSVs. If I click on the top one, export to PDF, again, just to show you, you can include the filters that you've got on the screen. So if you've got manual filters where you're looking at just casting or just internal consistencies and stuff like that, you can do that. You can look at just errors only, okay, and that's going to look at that red and yellow that I spoke about earlier on. And you could talk about sort of the other validations as well. Those references that we spoke about, you can then include or not include as desired, all right? And that will then export that to PDF so you can include them on your files. That is everything that I was going to go through within the actual software itself. So I hope you guys have enjoyed how that's looking. We've got obviously some 10 minutes at the end just to go through some Q&A. So if there are any questions that people have brought in, James, we'll go from there.
Yeah, yeah, I think one that applies to what you were just showing there in terms of exporting. Someone asked about a exporting a specific audit log of changes. So I assume it's just a list of changes they wanted. You've
Yes,
got
so
that option there.
this will run through and it will show you things that have been casting checked. It will show you the different parts in here. So this is designed so that you can put that on your audit file to say that rather than a junior spending 2 hours casting checking and everything like that, this audit log is showing you this is doing casting accuracy. It's going to show you everything that the software's done within internal consistency. It's going to show you everything the software's done in prior periods. So it will let the audit team have something on a file to say this has been done and this has been checked. It's a really clear statement or a clear audit process that you've actually completed rather than just saying the software's done that without any evidence.
Perfect. Another one that's come in is simply, is this available now? Can we can we have a look at it? Can we buy it
Yes,
now?
you absolutely can. So within English speaking countries, this is available at the moment. It's going through its final tests within the other Latin-based language characters. Sorry, Latin-based character languages that I showed earlier on. So that will be available very, very shortly. But yeah, within any English speaking countries, this is possible at the moment.
Okay, fantastic. One that came in was around this being obviously the browser window you're showing here looks different to normal Caseware Cloud. Is it a separate product or is it part of Caseware Cloud? How is it operating?
So we we acquired Extractly AI at the start of the year. In the future, this will be built within the Caseware ecosystem. At the moment, we're obviously quite excited to show you guys this product because of how good it is. So we're showing it in the ecosystem that we purchased it in. So at the moment, you can buy it through Caseware. It works with Caseware, and you can get the PDFs that you can then drop into your audit files. So there's no issue with people that have. I mean, we've already got people that have bought this, right? There are people that are within the UK. There are people that are using this now. Um, some really large customers as well using it now and getting some efficiencies out of it. So um, yeah, it's the ecosystem will be built in the long term within the Caseware ecosystem. When that is, they're obviously working on roadmaps and stuff. They want to make sure it doesn't hamper the product in terms of how that would, we don't want to just bring it in without having got everything lined up in the background. So
Mhm.
yeah, it will eventually be within the Caseware ecosystem, but at the moment it is a standalone login.
Perfect. Another one here, and while you answer this one, I'll stick the second poll on as well.
Okay.
But can you upload Word accounts to be checked? So I assume this is if you're currently not using Caseware necessarily, and you create your accounts on Word.
Yeah,
You know, if they're made into a PDF, will they still work through Validate?
that they will. Yeah, so Validate requires it to be in PDF format rather than Word, but from Word you can print to PDF. And that will, so I'll just minimize that on my screen. That will allow you to, yeah, as soon as you've got it in PDF format, it will come up here and do the same checks. It's using Textractly technology, so it's Textract technology, so that's how it's picking up all the different pieces. So as long as it's been printed to a good enough quality within the PDF, it will pick up on anything.
Okay, perfect. This one says which version of Case will this feature be available on? I think that's with it being a standalone product. It's
Yeah,
it's,
anything.
and it being the cloud as well. We don't really use the kind of same dominant denomination as desktop versioning that way.
Completely correct. Yep. Yep.
Um, okie dokie. I'll just grab another one. Bear with me 2 seconds. So can I get a trial of this?
Yes, no, absolutely. If you get in touch with, that sounds like the webinar's gone well, James.
Yeah, yeah.
If you like to trial it, get in touch with your account manager or James, and the other members of James's team can reach out to you and make sure that we get all of your details and everything like that, so that we can get you set up as soon as we can. But yeah, within
Fantastic.
the UK, this is trialable now.
Yeah, I've got one talking about competitor here. So, in terms of the differences between us and a software like Data Snipper, what would be the main comparisons between the two?
Okay, well, so we won't go too much in. Obviously, competitor software has its strengths and weaknesses. So I don't want to sit here and say all those different things. Um, we're proud of being cloud based. This is obviously based in the cloud. It can be accessed from anywhere. There's no Excel lag or anything like that. There's nothing slowing it down in terms of performance, which can happen. So we're really proud of the fact that it's cloud based and that you can get to it from wherever you are. Um, that's a really big strength in the performance that it gets. The false positive rates that we've had are not really reported. We've had one incident which they found about 18 months ago. So with that indeterminate section that we have, that yellow section, is something we're really proud of. We want to make sure that the software is doing its job. That green is completely reliable, so you haven't got to worry about the greens at all. And that's something else that we've worked really, really hard to make sure is completely reliable for auditors.
Perfect. One for you really, because I'm not really from the accountancy background, but do the manual cross reference checks roll forward to the next version?
To the next version, yes. Yeah. To the next year, no. But
Okay,
then obviously you'd have a new engagement for next year, and it would be a completely new thing.
fantastic.
But you saw how easy it was as well to set those manual references up within the accounts. It's just a case of on the left, select a cell, and then on the right, where do you want to reference it to? So it's a really simple process.
Perfect. And what level of staff is this product aimed at?
So that's an interesting question, actually. So we've the clients that are using this at the moment, the whole team is using it. Now, obviously, predominantly, the first time a set of accounts gets chucked in, speaking from experience, this goes to quite a junior member of staff to add it up, to check it agrees to prior years and things like that, and notes reference. So that is quite a sort of the first draft that goes in would normally have been done by juniors, and we're actually seeing a lot of good feedback over sort of staff retention. I know we obviously every single time we do a poll, James, and you'll have seen the same as me. The biggest issue our customers face is always staff and staff members, and this using technology like this is making it more enjoyable rather than someone having to sit there and painfully go through a note that we know adds up because we did it in Excel, but we've got to add it up again anyway just to check. Um, Rather than something like that, uh, where it's a laborious process. Technology like this is really sort of attracting people to, it's an easier part. Right? It's graphically, it's very nice. The user interface is nice, so it makes it nicer for people to do their jobs. And we've, people are reporting that staff are quite happy with the fact they haven't got to go and do this sort of thing. But to answer the question in terms of staff members it's aimed at, as this goes up through partner sign-offs and things like that, I haven't used it on our slides today, but there's a quote from one of the big firms that use this where a partner will not look at a set of accounts until it's been through Validate because they want to know that the software has been through it for there as well. So partners are using it, juniors are using it. It's been used across the whole audit team. So I think everybody is the answer to that question.
Perfect. There's an interesting one here. So, can the software review financial statements of entities such as charities and pensions, that kind of thing, as well as just your normal kind of bog standard corporate
So
company accounts?
yeah, it in theory it as I manually set things up, it will take anything. Um, I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to come back and find out the answer to that on charities and pensions and stuff like that. Because in terms of manually, yes, I could go through and tell it these are the cells I want it to look at, these are the tables I want it to look at. So it will do it. Automatically, I need to check the answer because I'm not entirely sure whether someone comes through at
Fantastic.
the end.
I really like this question. So we currently use the Caseware desktop version. Would we need to move to the Caseware cloud first in order to gain access to Validate, or can we just take our current desktop Caseware accounts as a PDF and put them on Validate?
Yeah, so no, as long as you print the PDF, it wouldn't matter whether you're on Caseware Desktop, Word and Excel, Caseware Cloud, any other competing software. Like as long as you've got a printout of a set of financial statements that goes into PDF, you can then use Validate to get through those statements.
I
This
suppose,
actually, I don't believe has been made in Caseware. This set of demo accounts is an example of something that can be used from anywhere.
yeah, I suppose to speak on that, one of the great things about it being kind of more universal is that you could take on, as a practice, you could take on a new client and you don't have to convert their prior year set of accounts necessarily straight
Absolutely. No,
away.
no, that's
You can
exactly
just
right.
take the PDFs in.
Mm.
Fantastic. I'm just conscious of time. We'll wrap up in a second. Um, okay. So, so I'm just scrolling through. There's so many. Um, are there any plans to include IFRS compliance checks?
So this does do IFRS at the moment. So yeah, that's how it's working in the UK. It looks for those note numbers, right? That those note numbers are the key part that it works with. So yeah, it would do that.
Fantastic. And someone's asking what the report would look like that you send across to the client for them to correct their accounts. So that was that
So,
that export process, I
yeah,
think, from earlier.
I think this completely depends on what you want to send to them, right? So you have complete control over the filters. You can send them just the errors. So if I sent them that, okay, when I export this, it will come up with these errors only, so the client can see really clearly this is a problem. This needs to be corrected. If you want to send them, uh, you know, only certain sections in terms of valid with certain bits, you can do that. So however you want to do this is the answer. You can customize this as much as you want to, and that's that. So I think to answer the question, it's flexible. It will look at however you want, and it will be a PDF format as a set of accounts that's marked up as you'd expect an audit team to produce.
Fantastic. One last one here. Does Validate have OCR? So I presume is Validate based on a optical
Optical
character
character
recognition?
recognition. Yeah, that's how it works. So it's using Amazon's extract function on AWS servers, and that's how it's using with OCR. Obviously, that's how extract works. I'm no coder or techie person, so I won't pretend to know the ins and outs of that. But as I understand it, it's using the optical character recognition and it's picking up those text strings and the text cells. And then we've obviously built all the bits and the tests to lay on top of that to have this.
Fantastic. If we hop back to the slides, if that's all right, to close
Yep.
out today's webinar. Fantastic. As always, if you want to jump on any of the other upcoming webinars, visit the site shown on screen there. We have educational webinars, so not just product ones, but if you want to learn a bit more about a specific way of doing something in our product, then feel free to jump on there. And on there as well, there's a little drop down to view all previous webinars as well. So this one will be on there. You can view previous webinars and download a copy of it from there. Fantastic. We jump to the next screen. Feel free to jump on our Caseware YouTube channel. We host all the webinars there under the playlists, as well as having all of our quick vids and educational medium there as well. Fantastic. And just finally, thank you very much for joining today. Really appreciate everyone's attendance and all the questions that have come in. It's been great to have a chat with you guys.
No, brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. And yeah, thank you for the time. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. And yeah, we're really excited about this particular product. It's going to have quite a strong future. The interest we've had in it already, having not really marketed it and just sort of put it out there with tests, has been really strong. The demand. So fighting back a tide a little bit at the moment, but
Good tide.
yeah, it's a great problem for us to have, and we're glad that people are as excited as we are about getting it out there. So, yeah, hopefully speak to you all soon.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Cheers all.